Hello, people of New World. It's me, Lamani, and welcome to the 2023 Ice Gauntlet Guide. Today, we'll be covering how you can use your Ice Gauntlet with a variety of secondary weapons so that you can perform to the best of your ability in PvP and PvE. The Ice Gauntlet is an incredibly strong weapon that has crazy burst potential, but is also the premier option for CC in crowd control in PvP environments. The Ice Gauntlet in general is just a very universal weapon with great damage output. It has a lot of defensiveness and ways that you can lock down enemies to secure kills. For your Ice Gauntlet builds, you'll have two main options. The most commonly used one is the support variant. You'll be using Ice Storm, Ice Shower, and Entomb, and really be focused on self-peel and CC options for either survivability or setting up kills for your teammates. The goal is to use Ice Storm and Ice Shower to block choke points, CC and root enemies, and really just make sure that you can clump up targets so that your teammates can capitalize on it. It's really focused on cooldown management because you do have some very impactful abilities, so making sure that you have high uptime is very important. The second build is the Ice Spikes build. This is going to focus on burst damage. You'll be using Ice Spikes, Ice Storm, and Entomb. The idea is this is a backline dive assassin build commonly used in light armor. You'll be pairing it with options to lock down a target with some form of crowd control and then aim your ice spike so that you can hit them multiple times and completely decimate their health bar. It's not focused on overall damage, but rather having burst damage so that you can lock down and kill a priority target. Moving on to the secondary weapons, the first one is the Void Gauntlet. This is the one you will most commonly see in combination with the Ice Gauntlet. It's got a universal standard build. You'll be using Petrifying Scream, Oblivion, and Orb of Decay. This is really going to emphasize crowd control and just general group utility options. You'll have empowers, you'll have ways to get stamina back, you'll have ways to put rends and damage over time effects on targets, and again, do some more burst damage. This will be used in a medium IGVG build for support and frontline play, as well as that Ice Spikes version that'll give you supplemental lockdown, and again, additional ways to do some extra damage with your Ice Spikes. Next up, we've got the Fire Staff builds, and the Fire Staff is really going to be dependent on your own personal preference and how you like to play and whether or not you're a freak that likes to use Flamethrower. So starting off, we have Pillar of Fire, Fireball, and Burnout. This is going to be a build option generally used for people wanting to play a little bit farther back and are okay with skill shots like Pillar of Fire. It has tons of burst potential, and again, it's a little bit more of a safe build so that you can play from a range. The next build option is going to use Fireball, Flamethrower, and Burnout. This one is for those of you who like to be a flamethrower crutch and walk forward and use your flamethrower on targets to just simply put out a ton of damage and chase targets around. Flamethrower should not be underestimated as it does a ton, it procs attunement, and it can crit. So it's a really, really strong ability, especially on an AoE pack or a clump that's being fought in melee. The last option is for those of you who do have a pocket healer or just don't want that clunky mobility sometimes of Burnout. You can use Pillar of Fire, Fireball, and Flamethrower all together so that you have all of the damage options at the power of your fingertips and you can go ahead and get as much damage out as possible. And lastly, we have the Blunderbuss. When you're using a Blunderbuss build, this will be your primary weapon and your Ice Gauntlet will always be set up as a support. You'll be looking to set up the Blunderbuss for kills. This build is going to use Net Shot, Azoth Shrapnel Blast, and Splitting Grenade. The idea is, again, locking down a target with that Ice Gauntlet so that you can get a one-shot combo off with synergy between Azoth Shrapnel Blast as well as Splitting Grenade. It really focuses on using Ice Shower to lock down that target, apply a rend, and just open up a huge window of opportunity to burst down a player. This can be played as a medium or a light armor player. Your attributes for these builds are going to be pretty diverse. If you choose to be a medium armor IGVG frontline, you'll be looking to play 250 int, 50 focus, and 200 con. That 50 focus is important for cooldown reduction, and it does give your Void Gauntlet a little bit of damage scaling that it wouldn't normally have. If you choose to play light armor IGVG with a spike, or if you're playing as a Fire Staff, you'll be wanting to play 350 int, 150 con, or less depending on your playstyle and your preferences for maximum damage output. If you choose to use the Blunderbuss, you'll be looking at 250 strength, 150 int, and 100 con. If you choose to play this in a medium setup, I would suggest playing 200 strength with 150 con to be more defensive. All right, let's talk perks and gearing, starting off with the IGVG setups. In a medium armor loadout, on your Ice Gauntlet, you'll either want Unending Thaw or Deadly Frost, then Refreshing Move, and then with Unending Thaw, you'll be looking at Enchanted, and if you go Deadly Frost, you'll want Chain Void. On your Void Gauntlet, you'll want Putrefying Scream, Keen, and either Vicious or Chain Void. For your armor, we'll be wanting Resil, Shirking Fortification, and Refreshing. On your jewelry, you'll want an amulet that has health, stamina recovery, and slash protection, ring with keen awareness and invigorated punishment and refreshing, and then on your earring, we'll be looking for refreshing toast, purifying toast, and refreshing. When you choose to do this in a light armor setup, the only things you'll be changing are really your Ice Gauntlet perks. You'll want to get Iced Refresh as your ability perk on your weapon, and then you'll be looking for Keen and Vicious. The only other change you'd need to make is I would suggest taking Keen Awareness or Ice Damage on a ring with Mortal Empowerment, and then you need Hardy if you choose to play in a light armor loadout. In general, when you're doing your gearing, the ability perks you need to have are these. If you choose to do a spike build, you need Iced Refresh. If you're choosing to use the support Void Gauntlet, you'll need to have Deadly Frost. Otherwise, you always need Unending Thaw, and then on your Void Gauntlet, you'll need Putrefying Scream, Nullifying Oblivion, and Diminishing Orb. Next up, we have the Fire Staff build. If you choose to use this, your build will be pretty similar. Your Ice Gauntlet will stay the same, your Fire Staff will have Empowering Fireball, Flame Attunement, and Vicious, and your armor will be a little bit different. You'll have Resil, and then Elemental Aversion or Freedom, and Refreshing, and then your jewelry stays pretty much the same as well, except we'll be subbing out Mortal Empowerment, Fire Damage, and Hardy as your primary perks. The ability perks you need with your Fire Staff and Ice Gauntlet are, again, same ones you would need typically on the Ice Gauntlet, but then for your Fire Staff, we need Empowering Fireball, Efficient Burnout, and if you choose to use Pillar of Fire, Refreshing Pillar of Fire can be very valuable. For your Ice Gauntlet and Blunderbuss setup, again, similar Ice Gauntlet, you will not be spiking, so don't even bother with the Ice Refresh setup. But for your Blunderbuss, we'll be looking at Enchanted, Flame Attunement, and Plagued Splitting Grenade. On your armor, we'll want Resil, Refreshing, and Shirking Fortification in both medium and light setups. On jewelry, the same amulet perks are necessary. Your ring is going to be where you pivot. In medium armor, we'll be looking for Invigorated Punishment, Fire Damage, and Refreshing. In light, we'll want Mortal Empowerment instead of Invigorated Punishment, and we'll take Hardy instead of Refreshing. Otherwise, everything else stays the same. The ability perks that you'll be needing for an Ice Gauntlet and Blunderbuss setup are, again, the same Ice Gauntlet perks that you generally take, but then for your Blunderbuss, you need Plagued Splitting Grenades, typically on your weapon, Leeching Azoth Shrapnel Blast, and Exhaustive Net Shot. When it comes to gems, all of your builds are essentially going to be the same. It just depends on the rune glass that you need. So for all IGVG builds, you'll be using 5 Rune Glass of Abyssal Onyx with 3 Cut Pristine Opals. In your weapon, you'll want 2 Rune Glass of Abyssal Opal. For an Ice Gauntlet focused Ice Spike build, same setup, but you'll want Frozen Rune Glass. When playing with a Blunderbuss, you'll want Ignited Rune Glass. Fire Staff gets a little tricky. If you really want to min-max your damage by a slight percentage, it's best to go Sighted Rune Glass because of the way that Empowerment Cap works along with increased elemental damage when you're sitting around 15 stacks of Mortal Empowerment. That will give you the best top-end damage, and on your weapons, you'll want Ignited Opals. Otherwise, for general all-purpose, you can simply just go all Ignited Rune Glass across the board. The Heart Rune you choose to take is dependent on your build. Typically, as a medium IGVG or a medium IGBB, you'll be looking for Brutal Heart Rune of Grasping Vines so that you can help lock down players with crowd control. Otherwise, for any sort of damage-oriented build, we'll be looking for Brutal Heart Rune of Detonate just to secure more kills and sneak in to pick off priority targets. Some quick gameplay tips to help you with your Ice Gauntlet play. It really depends on what version of your Ice Gauntlet build you're choosing to use. So, with the support Ice Gauntlet, you really need to know how should you place Ice Shower. You can use this in doorways, choke points, or to lock down single enemies. It's really beneficial to use on top of a stun, like a shockwave, or within a gravity well because the players are rooted. You can then root them again, apply a rend, and make them very, very vulnerable. You can also use this defensively as maybe some enemies are trying to attack you. You can put it behind you so that you can escape, or even give your teammates some peel so that they can survive. You can use Ice Storm not only for its AoE damage, but for its rooting potential. So when you have Unending Thaw, you can combine this with Heavy Frost by using a heavy attack and then rooting a target who's been afflicted by Ice Storm. Your Entomb can be used defensively or offensively. If you go into a frozen area, you can use your Tomb for some quick cooldown reduction if you want to get a Storm or a Shower back online. For the other build with Ice Spikes, all of these same tips apply, but the one thing that should be mentioned is how do you aim Ice Spikes? You have to aim it at the target's feet and to the right to make sure that you hit them 3 times to get the most burst damage potential. It's best to try and use this after you've locked them down with a Void Gauntlet Scream or after the target has been exhausted. You can then use the Ice Spike and cancel it early if you want, or roll back and try and get a full range kill to properly get the spike to hit them. That's all for now for your 2023 Ice Gauntlet Easy Mode Guide. For more tips and information on how to specifically play these builds and rotational elements, head on over to Icy Veins and check out our build guides or introduction pages. As always, if you need anything, feel free to hit the links down below or try and contact me on Discord and send me a message. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and thanks to every single one of you beautiful people for being you. Peace.